Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Con Magician, and I've got something interesting to discuss with you today. We're going to talk about an interesting subject. This is going to be the topic of pre-show. And I don't know, there may be some people out there that immediately turn this off because I said pre-show, and you have no interest in that topic. But I would ask you to bear with me because we're going to talk about pre-show in a non-show kind of application, but this can also be applied to a show application if you're a professional and you do a little bit of pre-show. Now, I don't claim to have the inside information on the topic of pre-show. If you really want to talk about pre-show work, you should talk to the mentalists that use it. And it's generally used in mentalism acts, where you're getting some information in advance or you're forcing information in advance that will then later be used within a context of a routine with an audience. And there is a dual reality such that the information that was forced or gathered ahead of time appears to be spontaneous and in the moment. And to the audience, that spontaneity adds to the effect. Whereas for the individuals that may have been involved in the pre-show acquisition or placement of that information, the inception of it, they still appreciate the effect, but maybe at a different level. Quite possibly at a slightly lower level. That may be true too. That in a nutshell explains what pre-show is in the most general terms, and there's books written on the subject, and this is not going to cover comprehensively everything that could be discussed, but I do want to talk about it in terms of common magician application, and this could of course apply to professional work as well. So pre-show, we know what it is, and because we know what it is, we also know why magicians avoid it. I think there tends to be a lack of interest in pre-show work because it's unfulfilling. There's that. And if you're kind of an everyday magician that performs for family and friends or in very small venues, that may be an issue for you, that it just seems unfulfilling to handle information in that way. And because you're dealing in small groups, in more intimate groups, you really want this to hit hard for everybody. You don't want 50% of your audience of 2 people, right, to be to have a lesser experience. Okay, it's not fulfilling. So there's that. The other part of it is that if you're working in small environments with small groups of people, opportunity for pre-show doesn't seem very likely because it's not like there's a show. It's not like there's a big audience, big venue, and you can deal in a small circumstance and then apply that to everybody. There is no everybody. There's just this small group. So doing the pre-show is really just the show. It's just part of the act. So what we're going to talk about here is in-show pre-show, the concept of doing pre-show setup that can be applied maybe in a social media platform, but even if it is not, even if it is only for the live situation with live spectators, we don't necessarily lose out on the effect by doing kind of a basic acquisition or placement of information before the effect begins. Okay, let me explain how this works. So this is an effect that is in my book on any card at any number called Any. There's a variation on it. The book discusses a couple of different ways to do this. There's a trick called All in the Cards, and then there's another trick right after that called All in the Moment. And they're essentially the same trick. The presentation is slightly different. The second one, All in the Moment, is an impromptu situation, whereas the first one is not necessarily. We're going to talk about the trick, though, and the way that the pre-show can work for the trick at the onset in the very first effect, All in the Cards, and we're going to talk about an impromptu application of that. When I say impromptu, we'll discuss what I mean by that in a moment. But you could have a deck of cards given to you in a moment, and with a little bit of prep, right in front of everybody. You could be kind of set up to do this, and it would work really well. So the effect and I've given away a lot, but again, this is about discussion. This isn't really about seeing if I can fool you. That's not what we do here. So a deck of cards, and this is a time when you would want to be shuffling in some way. I very subtly gave a bit of a mix here at the beginning. You would want to mix the cards, maybe cut the cards, and then you would commence. And the way this starts is you begin. Usually pre-show begins with "Before we begin." In fact, I think that Aussie Wind has a book titled "Before We Begin" or something like that, and that's kind of the essence of pre-show. It's something that's done before the trick starts. And this is kind of rule number one. If you're going to do some pre-show in show, I think you want to separate the setup of information or the acquisition of information, the forcing of information, apart from the beginning of the trick, where the trick actually begins, for two reasons. Number one, because it just helps, I think, a little bit to compartmentalize the effect. But number two is that in a social media environment, if you're doing something for a small group of people, but it can be recorded, if you separate out that moment and it's your device and you have control over the recording, that's the edit point right there. You always want to leave the pre-show work out. Okay, but let's look at the trick here. So we have the deck shuffled, in use, ready to go. What we do is we say we need some information, just some random information. So what we'll do is we'll just cut and we'll pick a card. We have 4 of hearts. Okay, so just a randomized card. We need some randomized bits here. Let's do the same thing again. We'll get another one. Let's see here. So we need another card, and I have to ask you a question. Value or suit? Just pick value or suit. We'll say I have a nickel here, a coin. Heads is value, tails is suit. Flip. They say tails, suit. Okay, so we'll say this is the suit to this value. So we have the 4, and then this is the, oh, that won't work. This is a heart. We already have the 4 of hearts here. Let's take the next card. Here we go. We have the spade. So we have 7 of spades, 4 of hearts. So first card is a value, second one's a suit. Now, if you had made it the other way, it would have been the 7 of hearts. Okay, but it's actually the 4 of spades. 4 of spades. Now, we need someone to remember this. Could you remember that? Thank you very much. So you have 4 of spades is in your mind. And let's do a little bit more here. We need to make a few more kind of randomized choices. So could you just pick for me, we need a few cards, 1, 2, or 3. What do you want? I've got a die here. We'll roll it. It says 1, just one card. Okay, so let's see here. We'll cut, and just 1 card, and it is a 2. Now, this is really, really small. Of course, if you'd picked some more cards, you would have had a different set of numbers. But since this is really small, we'll say 20 instead of 2. Does that make sense? So 20. Again, if it was like a 3, it'd be 30, a 4 would be 40, or if we had picked more cards, we could add them up or whatever, but that's what we have. So we've got our card, 4 of spades and 20, and you have 2 different people have memorized that. And the next thing we're going to do is very, very simple. What I want to do is the next thing that's going to happen really needs to be done without my control. So what we're going to try here is we have a deck. It is shuffled, and I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to do anything with the cards. But what we need is we need 2 pieces of randomized information. We need a card, and you're thinking of a card, a value in the suit, and it's completely randomized. Is that right? And we did not arrange anything ahead. Is that correct? This is a completely random value in a suit, right? And what's the card you were thinking of? 4 of spades. Very good. And we also need a number. And again, you're thinking of a number. We need a number between 1 and 52, something kind of bigger. And you're thinking of a number that fits that. Completely randomized. Is that right? And again, before today, nobody approached you and arranged this or anything. This is a randomized number, right? What's your number? It is 20, right? So you have 4 of spades and 20. Again, I'm not going to touch the deck. Could you please pick up the cards and deal down 19 cards right here? Someone picks up the cards. Go ahead, deal them face up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And this is the 20th card. Is that right? You said 20. Completely random, free choice, could have been any other number. Is that right? And over here, you're thinking of a card. And again, it could have been a different card based on choices, completely randomized. And you're thinking of the what? The 4 of spades? 4 of spades. Okay, so this is an example of in-the-moment pre-show, right? Obviously, what's going on here is a force, but what I want to discuss about pre-show forcing or acquisition of information or forcing of information is that you can import the pre-show into the show if the acquisition of information seems completely fair. If it seems completely fair. Now, obviously, this trick did not have to go through all of that at all. It could have been, go ahead and reach out and touch a card, right? This card right here, it could have just been a force of some kind. Why don't you think of that card? And you're the only one thinking of it, right? And let's see, we need a number. So why don't you say stop right here? And this is our number, we'll say 30, right? You could have had a couple of very direct forces that just give information, but there's not a lot of choice in there, right? There's a little bit of choice, but it's unknown choice. They reach out and touch a card. They say stop, whatever. You can use any kind of generic force to get that information and move right along with it, and it still would be a good trick. It still would be a good trick, provided that the deck is convincingly shuffled in a way that is believable, and you have this break in this moment where you can say, I'm not going to touch the deck. This is completely fair, right? In fact, you're going to do this. Now, why have that moment? Why do the pre-show, in-show, and then have that moment? Well, number one, as I said before, if this is a social media environment, this is why I say call the trick all in the cards, because everything is obviously stacked here. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if you have this moment where you are clarifying what's going to be done and you say we have a shuffled deck and I'm not going to touch it, this is the beginning of the trick. The video should start right before that moment, and then everything after that has a nuanced understanding to the viewers later. Now, the reason why this works so well in time and space with the spectators is because of the way things are forced. It just seems so fair and not surefire, but out of control. Like I don't really have control over the situation. So let's examine what's going on here. Now, this would be stacked. Now, I'm going to explain the stack here for a moment, at least this first time, and then we're going to talk about how to get into a couple of variations on this, but also the one that we just did with all of the benefits that come along with it. Our hit card's going to be the Queen of Diamonds, okay? So what we need is we need to have the Queen of Diamonds, and we need to have this be in the 17th position before a small stack. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's 17 cards. Now, I need to have a stack of 4 cards. 4 cards above this. There's a lot of different ways that you can work this. You can do some math on your own and figure out maybe an approach that works better for you, but this is what I posit. This is an idea of mine that will get us to that card. So we have 17. The 17th card is the hit card, Queen of Diamonds. You need to have a 6, a 9, and a 2. And also, we're going to place a picture card in there as well. So it's going to be 2, picture card, 9, and 6. So you have 2, picture card, 9, and 6. And this is going to sit right on top of the 17 cards that we have with, at the 17th position, the Queen of Diamonds. Okay. Now, on top of this, we need to have a diamond. Any diamond, it doesn't matter. So we'll put the 10 of diamonds on top. Now we need to have a queen. Any queen, and I'll pick a Queen of Spades. And you could either just have this on there, but I think there's a moment that we can get that is very helpful. This is from Animan. This is all built on an Animan force that we've talked about before, but it's really supercharged, right? And I may have taught variations of this trick before on the channel, but not really in the context of pre-show. We have a queen of spades, and then I'm going to put an indifferent spade underneath that. So I have queen of spades, indifferent spade, then I have the diamond underneath that. Then I have a stack of 4, which is 2 face card, indifferent face card, 9, 6, 17 cards, and the 17th card is the hit, which is the queen of diamonds. So let's go through what is happening here. This has to be on top. Now this is about half the deck. It's just shy of half the deck, which means that any kind of shuffling that we're going to be doing will probably have to be blind full deck shuffle, blind shuffle. So any kind of full deck blind shuffle that you like to do, it doesn't matter. I like, this zipper table wash thing you've seen me discuss before. You just spread the cards out in a V pattern, and from the apex you push in, and it looks like, and you kind of want the cards to rotate in a messy way, and you can even let it sit like this for a moment, or gather it up in a clump and let it sit like that for a moment. But you want to have this kind of sit in a messy state. You can even, with the way this is, you can even pick this up and square things up like that. Face out or face in, doesn't really matter. But this really helps with the illusion that things are mixed up. You want to have a good blind shuffle. If you don't do a blind shuffle, you can shuffle the bottom half. Or the bottom third. I can do an overhand jog shuffle. I take the bottom third, jog 1 card, and then I shuffle fairly on top of that, lift up at the jog, shuffle that third, and then drop the 2/3 on top, and I still maintain my stack. And throughout this presentation, this before we begin kind of moment where we get some randomized values, you're going to be shuffling a little bit in between, okay, with each selection. So we're in this state of false cut, swing, false cut to the table. And I explained before we begin, we need to get some information here. We'll take a random card. I've got the Queen of Spades. Queen of Spades. Now we do need to get another card, and I'll just do a little jog shuffle, right? 1/3 jog. Shuffle that third back on. We need another card, or you could just false cut. I mean, you could just false cut between everything. That's fine too. Any way that you look like you're randomly picking cards out is fine. We need another card, and I hold it here and I say, but first I have to ask you to pick value or suit. This is an equivocation. This is equivoque. It does not matter what they say. It's going to come out the way I want. I'm asking them to make a choice, but they don't know the way that the choice will be applied. They say value. Right? And I say, great, we'll go with this value. And we'll use queen against this suit. It's spades. Now, this is a throw-off. I put the spade in there on purpose because this is a surprise to me. Anything that is a surprise to me indicates that this entire thing is fair. If I'm surprised by something and it doesn't go exactly as planned, or the way I would want it to go, or there's something in the way, if there's a stumbling block in here, I would not plan to trip over something, right? If I'm going to run a race, I don't plan to fall down, right? I examine the track and I make sure my shoes are tight and I keep my eyes scanning and I run with great care. I don't plan to fall over, right? But that's exactly what we're doing. We plan this moment. This is in the stack. I say, oh, actually, this won't work. Now let's take another one. And this is another random card. And it's a different suit. I say that's a Queen of Diamonds. Now, if you'd picked the other way, if you said suit, we would have used the suit. And it would have been the 10 of Spades. Now, the way this works is if they say suit, say, great, we'll use this suit with that value. And the suit is, well, that doesn't work. Let's pick another one here. This suit's different. Here we have the diamond against the queen, right? And again, the basic idea here is that you don't want to apply the same suit. Otherwise, you have control over this card. You don't want to have control over the card. This is all about not having control over a card. It's about getting a randomization from an apparently shuffled deck. So that's the first one. Very convincing. This is very convincing pre-show. And because it's convincing pre-show, it can be in-show. It can be before the moment. And it maintains the fairness of the effect without having to give one person a lower experience than a greater audience. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. Now, with these cards, I've got my Queen of Diamonds, and I say, now I need you to remember this, okay? You're going to remember this for us, Queen of Diamonds. Can you keep that in your mind? Keep saying it over and over again. I take these cards, I can either throw them on the bottom, or I can lift up on the bottom third and just shove them in. When I do this, I like to do that because it's more messy. The more messy and the more careless we are with this deck of cards, the better off we are. You do another blind shuffle, maintaining that stock, maybe a false cut, and then you say, now we need to get, actually, can I have you pick a small number, 1, 2, or 3? What do you want? And they can pick anything. Now let me show you why they can pick anything. If they pick 2, or 1 card, it will be the 2. From this point, if I call this 20, the target card is at the 20th position. It's 17 plus the next 3. It's at the 20th position. If they say 2 cards, I would deal off 1, 2. And then I say this. I say the picture card's too confusing. Let's take another. Again, this is the Animan throw-off. Discounting the picture card as not being useful or helpful in the moment is, again, like accidentally tripping up on something. Oh, this is in the way. You don't plan for things to be in the way. This is a convincer that what we're doing is truly random and benign and outside of the effect. That's what we're trying to do. We're talking about good pre-show. Pre-show so good that you can do it in show. Now, imagine if you apply good pre-show that you could do in show outside of the show. Then you've got really good pre-show, right? That's the idea. That's kind of what we're getting at. So throwaway, right? And then I add the 9. Now what I say is, well, what's this? 2 times 9 is what? 18? 2 times 9 is 18. Well, getting rid of these 3 cards, now my target is at 18. Okay, so now what happens if they say 3 cards? I say 1, 2, 3, and I say, oh, well, the picture card's confusing, and then I drop another. Now I've got 2, 9, and 6, and if I add all 3 of these, I get 17. So I have 20, 18, and 17, and I always throw away the face card. So that is how this works. It doesn't matter what they say. They have a free choice, and it's a multiple out. So I use equivoque on the first, and I use a multiple out for this choice. They will remember that they made choices. In fact, this is going to help with the way we word things later on. Okay, in our pre-show applied multiple reality or alternate reality. This will help us with the wording that reinforces that secondary reality that we want the viewer of the video to see. Okay, and it also applies to them too. They will remember this as being completely fair. So no matter what, I'm going to go either from 20, 18, or 17, and I will end up at the target card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's my Queen of Diamonds, and I hit it. And it's a big enough number that this seems very, very any card at any number like. Okay, that is really, if I was to say that I was going to do a Bergloss effect, and I really needed it to hit, and I needed this on video, this is the one I would do. I would do this kind of a situation where I do some pre-show, and I would do specifically this kind of pre-show. I would not just force a card and just force a number in any direct way. I would do it like this because I really want the spectators who have to witness the pre-show to not give it any consideration. They need to be able to think back on that and say that was, completely random, these values. And I want to be able to say at this point, after having shuffled the deck and found these random things and having, even though I touched the cards, certainly never having looked at the cards in such a way where I could put anything in order, I can now move on like this. Now, people really dog on particularly any card at any number, Burglass effect sort of things, perfect any card at any number, that use pre-show as being invalid applications. But I disagree entirely. I think this is a very, very valid way to go about it. I think you need to pick your audience, right? You need to think, well, who is my audience? If I'm going to do something like this, my audience is obviously going to be a social media situation. And the people watching in social media, the magicians, might say, you did some pre-show there. But there's going to be a little bit of a cloudiness to the picture in the way that I phrase the questions or the statements that I make after that. Because I really can say, I need someone to be thinking of a card. Or we need someone to be thinking of a card. You're thinking of a card, and it's a truly randomized card, correct? Like it could have been any card, but you have it in your mind. Now, the reason why I can say it could have been any card is because they just went through the procedure by which it could have been this or it could have been that, and the cards that came out could have been any card, and they had a choice to make in the designation of what the card was. They chose it. They made a selection. They didn't specifically pick the card, but they did have a choice in making the identity what the identity eventually was, as opposed to making a different choice which would have made it a different identity. And we're not talking about merely just picking a card, right, blindly, and, well, that's my card. We never had control over this card that they designed and put together. They merely, we took a random card, they decided if it was going to be the value of the suit, that's how they remember it, and they picked the way it was going to go, and then that's what it was. And you can say things like that, and this is a truly random card. The other thing you can do in pre-show that really works well is wording things if you're in a real pre-show environment with a show and you've done some advanced setup before the onset of the effect in the moment with the audience. You would say to the participant and say, and I want to be very clear, nobody spoke to you before today. Well, that's true, right? This was all kind of set up maybe a few minutes ago or half hour ago when people were getting seated or whatever, but nobody approached someone before you today. Or you can say nobody else in that environment. You can say nobody else approached you about this. Is that right? That's true, because I was the one that discussed this with you and we came up with these things. Words really, really matter in pre-show because you want to be able to shut some doors in terms of having a stooge to make the effect work. Ultimately, with pre-show, it's about having a stooge, a confederate, that does not know that they're a confederate. They're unaware that they're a confederate, and they will swear on a stack of Bibles that they're not a confederate, because in their mind they're not. Everything was done in the context of this trick that day, right then and there. Right? That's the idea. Here, it's very much true in the same way. The nice thing about pre-show done like this, where there's layers of equivoque and multiple outs and what have you, and convincing elements that really seem to make this truly impromptu, when you have all of that, I really can lean into this idea of lack of preparation. I can really have the spectator assert that, and it actually has application for everybody that witnessed the pre-show because they validate it too. This was not set up. Nothing about this was set up. Is that right? I can say that, and it doesn't just affect the video. The pre-show is so well calculated, it actually applies to everybody that watched the pre-show. So that's the idea there. And that's the effect. That's how it works. That's how the wording works. That's how you can designate or design a pre-show kind of activity that can be done in show for people without depreciating the value of the effect. Okay. Now, why does this work and why is pre-show not a big deal? Well, because there's a lot of different kinds of tricks in the world, right? There are tricks that are pick a card, return it to the deck, and I'll find it, and it's still a good trick. For magicians, it's a dumb trick, unless it's done with a method that a magician can't spot. And then suddenly it becomes an amazing trick, right? This is kind of the whole premise behind Jason Ladani's social media. It's all for magicians. He's only doing it for magicians. The idea is that he's doing tricks that on the with respect to the effects are just any effect. It's just an effect that you could do for anybody. The issue is with the way he's doing it in such a way that the method is so covert that magicians say, I'm not really sure what he's doing there. You know, that's what magic feels like to everybody else, and I get to experience watching him. Okay, that's what we're after. So there are tricks that are pick a card, lose the card, find the card. And if the method is something that the spectator doesn't know, it's a good trick. That's why the rules don't matter, right? The ACAN rules and the touching rules and all this stuff. In a world where you could do something like this, shuffle the deck, right? I have the spectator shuffle the cards all they want, right? I take the cards back and I say, great. And you shuffled the cards and you shuffled them any way that you wanted to, right? Now, I just want to be clear that I don't know the condition of anything in this deck. I could not possibly know where any cards. You shuffled the deck, here it is. But I'm going to put some money on this. Let's see what I've got here. I've got 25, 30, 40, 1, 2, 3. 43 cents. I'll put 43 cents on this. That, at the 43rd position, we'll have, I'll do a 50-50 on this because I can't be too sure, a red 2. I couldn't know that. There's no way. You shuffled the deck and I certainly didn't look at it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. This is 43. 43 cents says that the 43rd card is a red 2. On 50-50, I mean, it could be a 2 of hearts or 2 of diamonds, right? I'm just saying it's a red 2. But there's no way I could know that so deep in the deck that you shuffled. I could not know, but it is, right? In a world where you can do a trick like that, and in many circumstances, even for magicians, it would fool them. It's a dumb trick. Why is it a dumb trick? Well, by the ACAN rules, I had my hands all over the deck. By the ACAN rules, I picked the number, even though it seems like it's from a random choice, coins in my pocket, right? I picked the number. I picked the card. I didn't even pick the card. I only picked a value and a color. So a 50, it's a 1 of 26 choice, right? Even though I completely violated all of the rules of any card, any number, the trick still stands if you didn't know the method, right? By the way, the method on this is I just need to put 9 cards underneath the bottom card, and then it's at the 43rd position, and I have 43 cards. It's dumb, right? They shuffle the cards all they want. I take them back. I see 7 of spades, and I shuffle 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've got 9 underneath, and that's the 43rd position in a deck of 52. It's pretty stupid, okay? But anyway, in a world where that's a good trick, and it is a good trick, in a world where that's a good trick, I most certainly can do some pre-show and do any card at any number and call it that. There's a personality out there on YouTube in particular that has an any card, any number, which is really a bit of a knockoff of the Aussie Wind one. It just it revolves around the same methodology, although a different application of it, a different thinking of the major portion of it. But essentially, it is the same trick. And they assert that this is the very best way that this is done. And it's the very best because it follows all the rules. And my thing is no, it's not the best because I know what you're doing. You can't fool me. I know what you're doing. Your issue with the rules is that the rules restrict someone from doing some kind of method that you would know about. But if I had my hands all over the deck, and I was just spreading cards and not reordering anything, there are moves I can do that are invisible to spectators. And that is no less than your method. If they don't know what I'm doing and I can make the claims that I can make, then my method follows all the rules, right? This whole idea that you can have an application of a trick that even other magicians would know how it's done means that it's a better trick for everybody else is absurd, right? The only thing that makes a trick good as a trick is if it fools people. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't like Penn and Teller's Fool Us. I don't like the title because it's not really all about fooling, right? It's kind of like saying, win or lose, it doesn't really matter. It's all about how you play the game. Well, it does matter if you win or lose, right? That's the whole point of the game. The whole point of the game actually is winning. Losing is not the point of the game. Losing is something that happens to one of the teams, right? And the other team wins and they're victorious and they celebrate. Certainly there's something about the struggle to get there, but the game is about the rules and the win, right? A magic trick is about being deceived. It's about being deceived. There's no such thing as a better method that magicians know that is better in spite of the fact that magicians know. Any method that the spectator doesn't know is a wholly sufficient method, right? And Preshow certainly fits into that. Now, let's talk about how to stack this sucker up in real time. Okay, so this is a nice long video on a lot of topics related to, I think, that things that magicians like to discount, and you shouldn't. You just shouldn't discount these methods. Forces, pre-show, equivoque, false shuffling, hands-on operations. This is all good stuff, and you ought to use it. You ought to use it much. You ought to use it a lot. Let me start with the elementary version of this trick. This is All in the Moment from my ACAN book. So same idea, but we're going to lose out on all the perks of our pre-show, kind of the nice little details. This is just going to be direct. What you do is you shuffle face up. You do a face-up call. We're going to do everything with face-up calls. You could do some spread calls for some of this, but I think face-up calls are just as disarming. Remember that with a face-up a shuffle, you do it not like this, but you do it like this. So they're looking at the back of the hand. You see, this is out of sight, out of mind. Nobody's really thinking about the fact that you can see the faces. I know people who shuffle cards like this in home card games, and nobody thinks about it. I've done this myself. I've shuffled like this in home card games just to see if anybody says anything about it. Nobody says anything about it. Nobody knows, especially if they don't know that something's going to happen. Now, here's my philosophy on setting up a trick in front of spectators. If you're going to set up a trick in front of spectators, you should do it in such a way that you're setting up pre-show. Literally, that you are not doing something when the heat is on you. You are doing something when you have control over the cards, but you are not demonstrating anything right now. You're merely just casually shuffling and other things are happening. Then the opportunity comes very shortly thereafter where you get the attention of people, and at that point you do false kinds of shuffles to nullify the possibility that things are preset. But otherwise, I believe in setting things up in this way outside of the heat, outside of the attention being on yourself. If you're going to set up with the attention on yourself, I highly recommend that you structure a series of smaller effects that allow you to make a setup in the open. And that can be easy to do. It can be a fun game to play. Say, well, I need this stack. I need this setup. I need to have these things in this place. What could I do where I call cards openly, like I would in a gambling situation? If all the cards are now open face up on the table, you have the community cards, you have other cards, and I'm next to deal and I gather all these cards up and I can call a bunch of open cards and then hold them in stack. Same idea, we're just applying it to magic. Could I do a couple of effects or a small routine where I get the cards that I need in the open and then I can make my stack there? That is the best way to really really, I think, set up a stack in front of people, is to build the setup into a small routine. Highly recommend it. It's a great puzzle to try to figure out. We're not going to discuss that right now for the sake of time. We're already up on to about 40 minutes in this discussion. So this is pre-show, right? I've got the cards here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to face up shuffle until I hit a 10. I like to use a 10. I just want it to be big numbers. So I hit a 10, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to thumb off of this 10 cards, okay? So I have 10 here, and then I'm going to draw this off, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it is the King of Spades. Now, one thing that happened here is I actually hit 2 kings already, and I just happened to recognize that. This can be problematic, and I'll talk about what to do if this happens and you run out of options. But I will need to have a king that I can get to, another one, okay? But I have King of Spades at the 10th card underneath a 10, okay? So again, I'll just do this again. 10, I shuffle in till I hit a 10. I leave it on the bottom. I run that off, and then I run 10 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. King of Hearts, okay? I'm going to throw on top, and I need to remember this in reverse order. Heart, King, and I can drop this on. Now, I could do one of two things. I can go for a heart. First heart I get, doesn't matter, and drop it. And then I can go for a king. First king that I get. King of Spades. And I could drop this on top, and I'm actually ready for a stack. I've got king, I've got heart, King of Hearts, throw it away. I got 10 cards, King of Hearts. But what I could do is when I get to my king, and I see that it's a King of Spades, I could thumb through to the next spade. And then I can put the spade on top and then put the king on top. Or I might have to, let's say I do that again. Let me get the spade out of the way. Let's just say the spade is deeper. So I have King of Spades is going to be my king, my fourth king. I can thumb down through until I hit my next spade. And now this is great. I've got to go further. So I finally hit a spade. At some point, I will hit one. 10 of spades. I'm going to put that 10 on top. Now, I know that king is in there. I know I've got to go for it. And I want to make sure I go for the King of Spades. I don't want to take another king. It's important that I use the King of Spades for this because of what it provides me. Now what I've done is I put king in a different spade and then the one that I'm after. And then this still gives me that at least that one moment, right, where I can show the king and I can say value or suit. They say value. I say, great, we'll go with the king, and then this will be the suit. And it's a spade. We can't use that. It's already the King of Spades. We'll go to the next one. Heart, King of Hearts. Now, if you had said the other way, if you said suit, it would have been the 5 of spades. Okay, and this is a perfect throw off. So that's the stack, and then I've got 10. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is going to be my King of Hearts. Okay, so that is the elementary way of doing this. I call that all in the moment because you can stack it so quickly just using an overhand shuffle. And we looked at a face-up call. Now, we looked at two variations of it. You can do the direct one or you can do the throw-off. Here's another version where you can also do the throw-off, but we could give a secondary choice. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go down until we hit a 10. This is not in the book, by the way. I don't even remember what I put in the book. I don't have the book here to reference. I think I just put the 10 one in there. But I could go down until I hit a 10. So I'm just face up shuffling. I hit a 10. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to thumb the 10 and then the next card on top of it. And that's going to be the 9 of spades. Okay, so whatever this is, as long as it's not a picture card, it could be any number card. If I get a picture card, I could thumb that down and get the picture card and throw it to the top and then do this again until I get another number card. So now I've got my 8 on top of my 10. Okay, so I have an 8 and a 10. The number we're going to go for now is 18. 18. Now it's important that I have the 8 on top of the 10 because I want the 8 to be the first card I come to. So when I thumb this off now, I'm going to thumb 8, then the 10 on top of it, and now I'm going to thumb 18 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This is 18. And I've got the 8 of diamonds. Now I already used an 8 Okay, if I don't like this, I could deal with it later on. Again, you could spread call out or something, or just start over. I mean, if you have all kinds of time in the world ahead of this, you can just throw on top and do another one to hit a better hit. But I have an 8 here, and it's the 8 of diamonds. I need to think about this in reverse again. This is going to be the 8 of diamonds at the 18th position. I throw on top, and I think diamond 8. I throw on top. Now I'm going to overhand shuffle, face up to a diamond. First diamond that I come to. I have a queen of diamonds I throw. Now I need to find an 8. I happen to have an 8 right here. I'm going to put this 8 on top, but what I want to do is maybe add the throw off for the heart. So if I grab an indifferent heart, I'm just going to thumb down here until I hit a heart. 9 of hearts on top. I know my 8 is just a couple more down. I throw my 8 on top. So you can kind of go back and see what I've done there. So now my stack is 8 of hearts, indifferent heart, queen of diamonds for 8 of diamonds. Now I have 8 and 10, and then I've got 18 cards down to the 8 of diamonds. Okay, so the way this plays out is value or suit. They say suit. Great. We'll use this suit to this value. And the suit is, oh, that doesn't work. It's a heart. We need a different one. Here we go. Diamond. So we have the 8 of diamonds. Again, if you would pick the other way, it would have been the queen of hearts. But you picked the 8 of diamonds. So I've got my throw off in there. Now I say, we need a number, just 1 or 2 cards. What should we use? Now I at least have the choice of 1 or 2. If they say 1, it comes out as an 8. And I say, 8, that's kind of small. Let's call it 18. Okay, now what I've got is I've got the 10, and then I've got 18 underneath that. This is a very simple matter. All I need to do is take these cards, reintroduce them into the deck at the bottom or whatever, and then I can thumb off 1 card. Okay, I thumb off 1 card to throw it to the bottom in a shuffle. I can do a false shuffle or a top stock retention at this point. I can take the bottom part. I just thumb 1 card like this. I thumb 1 card. I take the bottom third, and then I do a jog shuffle. And then I bring it back, and now I can pass this off and go into my shtick, right? I've done my pre-show. Now, also, I could have had my 8. Here's my 8, and then my 10. They say 2 cards. I could say 8 and 10. What do we get if we put that together? What is it, 18? Well, now I've got 18. So 18, I count down to 18, I'm going to hit my force card. So this is kind of the JV version of it, okay? Now, the one that we did where we had more options, we have the option, that's give me 1 or 2 cards. But if we want to do 3 cards and have a throwaway card in the middle of that, then you can stack up this way. What you need is you need to think about first the stack of 4 cards for the number first. You need to deal with that first. And you want to think about them in reverse. Now, the numbers you need for my number force is going to be 6, 9, picture 2. 6, 9, picture 2. So I'm going to face up call until I get a 6. Get a 6. I face up call until I hit a 9. Again, this is assuming you've got all kinds of time ahead, right? And I'm, just bantering around, or other people are doing stuff 9. I'm just shuffling. I might even stop in the middle, and just do something completely different, or even do a real shuffle and just maintain my top. 6, 9. Now I need an indifferent card, picture card. I've got a jack, and then I need a 2. And I've got a 2. Okay, now I've got my 4 number forces on top. That's the hard part. What I want to do is I want to now put these back on the bottom in reverse order. I turn the deck over, and then I'm going to thumb off 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Make sure your cards run easily whenever you do this. You don't want sticky cards. The cards need to be smooth. Now I've run them in reverse, so now it's 2 indifferent picture 9, 6. I turn over at this point, and I know my number I need to go for is going to be 17. 17 cards is what I need, and the 17th card is going to be my force. So I've got my reversed numbers on the bottom. I'm going to count these off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This is really not more cards than what we had to do on the JV version, right? If you have 18 or 19, that's actually more than what we're dealing with here. My 17th card is 10 of diamonds. 10 of diamonds. I'm going to think about this in reverse. I'm going to think diamond 10. Diamond 10, because that's the order in which I'm going to call. So I'm going to drop the rest on top, and I can't go more than half. I can't go up to the 10 of diamonds. If I'm running through and I hit 10 of diamonds, I need to do something about that, okay? But I want to keep 10 of diamonds in my mind. So I'm going to now run until I hit a diamond. First diamond I get a 2 of diamonds, I throw that on top. Now I want to run until I hit a 10. First 10 I get. And the probability is good that I haven't used up my 10s, but I am watching for the 10 of diamonds. If I hit my 10 of diamonds, and if you look here, I hit 10 of hearts and 10 of diamonds is next, so I just happened to get it. If I hit the 10 of diamonds and I didn't get to the 10 yet, I'll show you how to deal with that. I'm going to throw this back on top. I now have my 10 of hearts. I'm going to put an indifferent heart in the middle. So I'm going to go here to the next heart, throw that heart on top, throw my 10 on top. Now I have my stack that I had at the beginning. Now, I explained all this, and it took a lot of time in the explanation, but if you practice this order and you understand the order of operations and what you need, this really is done in no time, and you've done a really complex staff. Just bopping around, looking around at people, glance at the cards every now and then, right? Maybe cut the cards every now and then, or sit there and talk. Maybe let a few moments pass and then pick up again and go on. There's a lot of ways in which you can set something up in the open where you have not apparently made a stack, just using a face-up call, right? Overhand shuffle call. So now we have it. 10, can't use that. 10 of diamonds. 1, 2, or 3, say 2. Can't use that one. Let's go to the next one. What is that? That's going to be 18 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This should be our 10 of diamonds. Okay, now let's talk about this here for a moment. We're going to put the 10 of diamonds back in there. We're going to take one card out, and I'm going to put this 10 inside. That's the one I needed. And I'm going to put my cards back in order. We had, let's see here. Lost track of my stuff. Doesn't matter. I need to get a 10. And I happen to know that there are no 10s before the 10 of diamonds. I'm overhand shuffling to make my stack. Okay, so I'm setting up my stack and I need a 10. I've got everything in place but the 10. And I go, and I hit 10 of diamonds. Shoot. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that back and drop everything back on top. Now I'm going to call. I'm just going to go in, okay? I'm going to go in. I see my 10 of diamonds. I'm going to go up until I see another 10. I'm going to call that out, put it on the top. Now I have it in place. Now what I need to do is I need to go back. I need to call an indifferent card, and I need to stick that on top of the 10 of diamonds so that I replace the card that I remove. This is why you can, a spread call as a pre-show, a setup utility is so good because it doesn't have to be burnable necessarily, but it is easy to just spread and do something without necessarily setting things out in order. Most people, if you ask kind of the average person to stack up cards in a certain order, they will have to go through and take cards out and make an order and then put it on top. We don't need to do that. We have utility moves that allow us to put things where we want them to. The spread call is one of those. So that's how you contend with situations where things are not accessible. You just stop what you're doing, spread, find it, call it, replace what you called, and then you carry on. But anyway, pre-show within the show for the common magician. Those of you that don't really do shows and you don't like the concept of pre-show and you're saying I could never find application for pre-show. I don't do shows. How could I ever apply that? Well, you can do pre-show acquisition or inception of information by having a really, really good routine worked out of fair, free, randomized selection to get there, right? You're going to have to make that force element really convincing and spontaneous looking, and I posit that this is a really, really good way to do it. And it's all in the cards. It's all right there. This obviously can be applied in a lot of different ways when you need to force a value a suit, a card by value in suit, or if you need to get some kind of numbers, or yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of applications for math there in terms of always getting to the place that you need to because you have multiple outs in the mathematics. I'm sure if you play around with this, you'll find additional things that either do the same kind of procedure and get you to the same place, or you might find alternatives that are close by only one or two cards, and it's just a matter of remembering which ones that you need to run off. Maybe you can get math that is close, but it's off by only one or two, and you just remember that I run 1, 2 before I carry on with the application of those numbers, right? Find an innocent way to do that. So a lot of discuss there. Hopefully you hung in with me this long. This is a good, almost an hour-long video. I've not been posting a lot lately. I've been incredibly busy. There's been a lot going on with just my real work. But I did have some time tonight to discuss this. Topics we've discussed before, but we haven't really addressed pre-show. So those are my thoughts on pre-show. Why pre-show is awesome. Why pre-show should never be looked down. Why any magician that says, yeah, but you had to do some pre-show for that. Why those people are just... I don't want to be derogatory. I think they're just short-sighted. I think they're misrepresenting that method. And that's unfortunate because misrepresenting the method means that it discourages people from using it. And I think that's a terrible thing, particularly as we're trying to share knowledge, share information, and get magicians to, common magicians like me and maybe like you, to perform more. So yeah, you can have a whole routine built on these little pre-show moments where you're doing really good forcing, really good decision making, corporate decision making, that seems fair and spontaneous with little hiccups in there. Go for the hiccups. Design hiccups into your magic because it will make it all the better. And it'll allow you to bring your pre-show out into the open without any depreciation of the effect. So good luck with that. Lot to consider. Happy magicking.